You're listening to Well I Laughed, Part 2 of Ghosted. Ahoy.
Are we going? I'm sorry that you
Was that original for you?
That wasn't what I was trying to say. This was the new thing I wanted to try out. From WIL Studios in Denver, Colorado, this is Grant and Maia. Caller one.
All right.
Okay,
Who's caller one?
I don't know. Me? Mo?
That's cool.
Did you update your photo on your iPad? Your screensaver photo?
No.
Oh,
It's always been that one. Dumbass.
This is the thanks I get for trying to notice something.
Also, between now and when I start my second story, I still have to come up with a theme. Still don't know what it is.
So if this makes it into episode 23, one, you have a really exciting episode next week. It's the live show, which is
we haven't mentioned that
it's
all.
Planned. Haven't we? I think
we mentioned it to the Patreon.
No, but we during the Agatha Christie one.
We did.
We did. Yeah.
You're right.
A rare moment, but a broken clock is right twice a day. I'm the broken clock.
That is Spike's show.
Oh, yeah. I told you it's like Christmas back at home. We're having some fun coffees this mid-afternoon, mid-morning.
2 o'clock.
It's rare for us to record an actual episode with the sun still out.
Yeah, which is fun because, dear listener, because we have the live episode for the next episode, we need to record 2 because we're behind from Patreon, and I'm going on a work trip next week, so we have to record 2, which means the next episode is also my episode. And so the last 36 hours have been me just insanely deep in so many different rabbit holes. And yeah, my next episode, notes are about 80% finalized.
That's great. I'll be on my phone for a little bit. That's always fun for me. I love that.
Yeah.
I just when we sat down in that coffee shop, honestly, just around the corner from here, 9 months ago now?
The lake place that this is from.
Oh, did you guys go to Crema?
Well,
you did?
There's a Crema in Denver Central. It's a different one, but it's the same people. Yeah.
Really capitalizing on the neighborhood, huh? Mm-hmm. That's fun. But when we met sorry, your face every time you take a sip, when you realize
so
how
much booze.
strong it is. I'm a German Irish who goes home for Christmas. I don't know what you thought it was going to be. Anyways, when we first sat down to create this, to plan this out 9 months ago, Maia and I came up with a story arc, mainly Maia, but I was like, that's a great idea that I still think is really fun, it's one person tells one story, the next week the next person tells the next story, and then we kind of share that third week either with a friend or a guest, or it's like our little special episode. And that is a lot of fun. It does mean that when it's your turn to tell a story, you actually have to prepare 2 in a row. Yeah. And then you get a little PTO, you get a little time off, but then you're back at it again real quick. And as a person who just finished that arc himself on the 2 ends of our little European escapades,
that's true.
I don't know exactly how stressful this last 32 hours has been, but I do know the time crunch of oh my God, I love this podcast so much and I can feel the pressure bearing down on me right now.
Okay, we have so much banter. I don't know why I picked up my notes as if we're going to start right now. Jesus, I've been so in it for the last 36 hours.
Do it live.
We're doing it right now. Story now, go.
I just love it that for the last 36 hours, this is what you've been locked into, and that's that TikTok audio. I'm spinning like a ballerina. How was your run today?
Oh, it was good. Yeah, Casey and I did a 5K this morning for our alma mater minds.
YouTube friends, did she run a 5K? Does she still have the free swag on?
Yeah, I do.
I'm a swag on. I don't know.
Yeah, the way that today went is that we woke up, we went to the 5K, did the 5K, said hello to some people, came back. I took a quick 20-minute nap, and then immediately on to my computer to finish researching, right up until literally still on my computer when Grant walked through the door.
Trademark late, by the way. 15 minutes late after we delayed it by 30 minutes already.
Yeah, exactly.
45 minutes past our original start time.
Hey.
I'm here.
Yeah, and luckily this is a visual and audio medium because if you could smell me, it probably isn't great.
Why do you think I put so much whiskey in the coffee?
All right, fuck you.
Can't actually smell you yet, by the
Okay,
way. But I
that's
did
good.
shower right before I came here, and
I'm gonna shower in between our episodes, I think. Yeah, I ran the 5K. This is the first 5K I've done like totally all run, like no break at all. It breaks for like the terrain for this 5K is like messy.
Do I know where it is? Do I know
It's
the
in
park?
Golden.
Okay.
So you kind of like go up. You start on this like on just a road, and then you go up a hill.
That's so Colorado already.
Yeah, and then you're going up a hill, and then that's like maybe the first half mile by the time you get to the top of that hill, and then you go downhill down to the creek in Golden.
Okay.
And so that's an easy part, and then it's flat going down around the creek, and then you come back up, and then there's this massive incline right
There
at
it
the
is.
end. Yeah, and so
Oh, and your legs are kind of shot.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this year, since I ran the whole time, I was still at the front where all the like runners were, and so all the people that were like had the path, they put more of them up that hill because they know that like people want to give up at that point, and so everyone's
sure.
like, "You can do it! You're almost there!" And so I was like, "I can do it!" And I told Casey before we started that like my goal was to run all the way to the bottom of that hill and then walk up, but then everyone else was running, and all the
Right.
people were like, "You can do it!" So I was like,
Wait,
"Oh,
no.
fuck!"
Colorado's like, die. Like, that is this entire state's mindset when it comes to
So
physical
true.
activity.
And so Mo has run the 5K with me the last 2 years. I did like a little test run with her earlier in the week, and around mile like 1.5 to 2, she was like, "This ain't for me." Like she was lagging behind to the point where I was like trying to get her to go for it, and then I would slow down a lot, and then but she would just keep slowing down even if I
Right.
slowed. It wasn't like she had a set pace or anything. So I had a friend who still works at Mines hold Mo for me, and then she like gave Mo to me like halfway up that big hill, so Mo could like run the last quarter mile and cross the finish
So
line.
that's precious, but on the hardest part, when you're the most tired,
Well-
they're like, here's 13 pounds.
Well, she ran the last little bit. I didn't have
Okay.
to hold her, but
Okay.
I was expecting Kelsey to give her to me like at the top of the hill. But her husband was running it, and her husband's really fucking
For
fast.
half a second, I thought you meant Mo's husband.
No.
'cause that's who I was focused on. And I was like, wow.
No, Kelsey's husband, I think finished it in like 20 minutes this year or something
Don't you
like that.
hate people?
Yeah, and then
Danny, we're talking about you right now. We know
and
you
I was
listen.
like, "How'd it go, Edgar?" And he was like, "I was a little slower than I wanted. I was shooting for 19," and I was like, "Okay, fuck you. Never mind. I forget I
not the right
asked."
person to ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he finished before me, so they both kind of walked down the hill to meet me because I think they assumed that I would be close, which I was. But I was like, "No, stay, stay up there." But it gave me an excuse to like walk for like a hot second while I got
Yeah.
her leash adjusted and everything, and then But yeah, I ran the whole thing.
Congrats.
I got like a 10-mile pace, which usually I do intermittent running, so I don't really actually know what my pace is because
Sure.
I'm walking half the time. So that was good.
A 10-mile pace, especially for more than a mile. Like everyone
Yeah.
remembers that kid in high school who could do like the mile in 8 minutes and then was just damp for the
Entire
entire
day. Yeah, they don't talk about that part.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as a public school teacher, you're like well aware of it, you know? Like first period, first period just doesn't have a smell at all, which is really nice when you work with young people. Fifth period does. Love them to death. Sweetest little kids. We crack them windows open fifth period.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, that's great. Good for you.
Thanks.
We both did a little running today, which is
did.
great. I think I'm going to share this because when we publish this episode, it'll be after this weekend.
Yeah.
I've referenced that I have been getting into running casually. The thing I've been kind of tight-lipped about to everyone but Maia, because she's now my secrets person. In addition to the Bohawks, is that I signed up for a half marathon in August, having never ran a mile as an adult ever.
Yeah.
I was on the top of Green Mountain for a sunrise hike, just full of
I
all those
remember
endorphins, and being like, what if we just did whatever we wanted to? What if we were capable of anything? And then I got off the mountain and signed up for a half marathon. And there's nothing like signing up for a half marathon 2 months before you have to run that half marathon for you to develop a new hobby really quickly. So that weekend I bought new shoes. The girls who
They're
girl.
really cute.
Girl.
What brand are they? The On
Clouds. Yeah, they are super
I really
cute.
like that brand.
It's the glacier and meadow color scheme too. It's adorable.
You wore them in Europe. They were very cute.
I did. Same day I had like my little tote and a bandana. All I needed was the dangly earring, and I could have finally been someone's type. I'm kidding. Kidding. I had a great time in Europe. Anyways, that half marathon is now 7 days away.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And feeling pretty okay about it, especially after taking a 9-day break in the kind of run up to my preparation. Hit my pace today. I hit the pace that I wanted to hit and ran 5 miles around Sloan's Lake.
That's awesome.
And it's like around mile 3.5, your body finally stops fighting you and it accepts it.
It's like, it's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
But up until that point, your legs are like hot. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your quads are like,
Correct.
why?
There's
Is there
a
a bear? What are we running from?
Well, and I'm also kind of starting to get to the point where it's like, is this good for my knees? It's never
not.
good for
No,
your
it's
knees.
not. Don't ask the
Never
question.
at all.
Yeah.
But I'm getting to that point now where I can kind of start to tell that it's not
bad
good
for
for
your
my
knees.
knees. It's fine.
Do you get shin splints?
What? Ew, like where? Say
Your
more.
shin like starts hurting. It's the best way to describe it. Like it feels like your bone hurts.
Sorry, guys. No, I do not get that.
Okay. Because usually if
I don't think I go that intense. Like I have a nice little pace, especially for a big guy.
It doesn't have anything to do with pace. It has to do with like how your feet and like if you stretch your calves enough beforehand. I used to get really bad shin splints. It doesn't matter how fast or slow you go. It just is the matter of you hitting the concrete.
Oh, that's interesting.
A bunch of times, yeah.
No, it does not feel like anything bone-wise is happening.
Well, if it does start hurting, you need to stretch your calves.
It's shin splints.
Shin splints, yeah.
I think I need to find a new hobby, set a new goal.
You're like, well, that's it for that.
This was a fun journey, and by that I mean, okay. No, it's been great to prove to myself that I can do it, you know.
Yeah.
It's nice when you're not trying to impress anyone but yourself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that is a good one.
When this publishes, either I have done it and the triumph is all over my Instagram, or I didn't do it, and what are you talking about? I have asked Maia to cut this specifically from the episode.
It'll come out on April Fool's.
No, listen, I'm a middle child, I'm a Taurus, and I genetically am from my dad's side of the family. I'm stubborn enough to get it done.
Hey.
I'll be a little vomity afterwards, I think, but I'm gonna get there. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. So yeah, that was it. Mm-hmm. The work week was crazy busy, but I'm here. And that's brave of me. Thank you.
That is really brave of you. This week I did, if you're a coworker, no, you're not. I did.
Double for me. Yeah. Double for me.
I did like 3 days of work in 3 hours this week on Wednesday. I don't know if we talked about that on the last episode. It happened on Thursday.
We talked a lot about you reorganizing the office kitchen.
Well, that was several episodes ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't done that yet. Yeah, anyway, ADHD really is fucking nuts sometimes because I'm like, I'll do what I'm supposed to do for a little bit, and I'm like, but this isn't due for like 4 days. And then day 4 comes around, and I'm like, oh, but this isn't due until the end of the day. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, and then I sit down and like put my headphones on, put my 8D music on, and just like.
Nice, good.
Yeah.
You just freak out for a second.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like it. You're just moving a lot. I don't know. That's how I got these notes done.
I hear that.
Mm-hmm.
The benefit of jet lag was that meant I was waking up
early.
a whole hour early,
Yeah.
and then we recorded the Agatha Christie episode on Wednesday, and that Wednesday morning, well, that was the last morning I had jet lag. The next morning I woke up and then just went right back to sleep
Yeah.
and hit my actual alarm an hour later. And I was like, they got 3 days out of me. Like, I don't know
what they want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because then that day, the day before, the day we recorded Agatha Christie, we went to a little theater production, which is always fun. Talked about that briefly. I'm changing lives. Also, it took both my planned periods, which is absolutely
That's
not
fun.
something
Yeah.
I had the time for. But yeah, we're caught up. Yeah, we're caught up
fine.
now.
Everything's fine. Yikes.
What are they going to do? I mean, they could fire me. No, I'm kidding. I did have an assistant principal message me though, and she was like, "Guess what I found on your TikTok?"
No!
On my TikTok, and I was like, "Oh no, what did you find?"
Which one?
I
did
think
you
I
find?
even asked like specifically which one. She goes, "Oh no, it's just your podcast." And I didn't want to
which one?
Right, but see, I didn't want to respond with that.
Yeah.
I didn't want her to know that we published a new video every day because I kind of like this part of my life to be an enigma at work
Yeah.
and with the men that I'm flirting with.
Yeah.
You know, I just share this with me, Maia, Maya, the 7 close friends I keep who cannot escape me,
Like
and strangers
6,000
on the
people
internet.
that listen.
And our listeners. Anyways, she was like, oh, it's just your podcast. And I was like, oh, cool. Just that? Like, my friend, what did you think I was referencing? I was worried as to what video popped up. But apparently,
like,
it's not even worth mentioning. Good.
She's like, I saw your face and I actually didn't listen.
Are you one of the people whose comments I deleted this week? Because I don't think you got the point of this video.
Oh my god.
So it's been a week. It's been a fun week, though.
Yeah.
I mean, every week's a fun one. You know what this is giving.
No.
How was your week, Maya?
Stressed.
Oh, okay. Well,
I was good. I'm holding space for you, but I'm good.
I love how we thought that was going to be just kind of like a fun one-time thing,
No.
and it's actually our personalities.
I gave Grant a card from like a rehab clinic.
Okay, that's a hard pivot as I drink my whiskey coffee. Say more, Maya. Say
I don't even remember what it
everything.
said.
Also, it wasn't an addiction clinic. It was a heroin addiction clinic.
So I was at a music festival and they had these, it was actually very sweet. They had these like little booths and all of these cards like that were done by local artists and stuff. And they're just giving them out as like encouragement to like reach out to people, or if you're having an issue to reach out to someone, and you can just take them. Right. And I think
if I can add just a small little detail, the cards are nice and are like actually cards, and it's like made by an artist. They don't mention addiction on them, but there is several then little inserts inside of the card that tell you where to get help with your heroin addiction. And Maya wrote a little note on the card and then kept all the handouts and sealed it and gave it to me.
I remember specifically leaving the handouts and I was like, this will be funny. What did the front of the card say? I remember it had something to do with the like,
honestly, it was just
I'm holding space for you.
I think it was something. Oh, is that what triggered the memories? I'm holding space for you. I just remember the note on the inside being nice, but then balanced perfectly with the material.
Addiction to heroin.
Maya can't let me know she likes me too much.
No, I gotta give him a compliment and then bring him right back down to where he started.
Speaking of street festival, there's something happening outside of Maya's like
it's crazy.
building today, and it's so funny. You return from Europe and you're like, America needs more street culture. And then as soon as that street culture takes up the space that you usually park at, and you're like, what is this, tyranny? I'm back in the States.
I'm proud to be an
American. We told our Patreon friends that we saluted a I saluted a Starbucks.
I pointed it out because
while we were in Prague.
We were at a castle and we were looking over the beautiful view of Prague, and then we look directly to our right and kind of like underneath, because it's like terraced kind of down this like hill. Kind of underneath there is a like hedge, a stone, like, I don't know, what would you call it, like wall, and there is Starbucks etched into the stone near this castle, and we're like, I'm proud.
Like, you can tell it used to be like a gate that a person with a long spear used to man to protect the castle.
Now it just says Starbucks.
And now they serve Americanos out of it, mainly to tourists. I love that we went to that castle in Prague and didn't read a single thing. We were like, this is a castle.
And then spent like most of our time in a gift shop.
Correct, 100%. Oh, do you see this? It's free, basically.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't figure out the equation in our head.
Yeah, because the kronas in the Czech Republic like don't have like a really easy conversion to figure out. It was like 0.25 or something. Yeah.
I just remember that if anything was, what was the conversion?
Was great.
Anything that was under 150 crowns was free in my mind, because it was probably $8 or less, and it just wasn't worth figuring out the transaction. I had a little spending money that day.
At some point, he was like, $4.50 is lunch money. And then what, like $600 is dinner money. Yeah. That's girl math. So every time I looked at something, I was like, oh, it's less than lunch money? Put it in.
Girl math is, I know how much I want to spend at dinner tonight and how much I want to spend at lunch, and that's how I'm going to fall everything. Yeah. Boy math is, we have 15 minutes to do the 13-minute walk to the train station that we're about to miss. We got there.
The best part about that is that we got there. We did. He panicked. He saw something that said 6. We don't even know what it was referencing, but he was like, we got to go to platform 6.
It was all in Czech.
Yeah, and so he looked over his shoulder and said, we got to jog a little bit, and then started jogging, and I was like, okay, gym teacher. So we jogged down to station 6, and he's like, it's at station 1, and we jogged back.
It was exactly where we were. We were at the right door. Run, Maya, run.
And at that point, we ran into the woman that we had met at the gay bar the night before.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, her and like her 2 gay friends.
They seemed significantly less worried about anything.
Well,
that has always been them.
The guy, I think they might have had a 4th person that wasn't with them at the bar because one of the guys was like, "Do you have space for a wheelchair?"
Remember that? Yeah. Yes.
And we got there like not on time.
No.
And so they probably got there really not on time, especially with a wheelchair.
But I like to think that this was just me making up for us getting to Heathrow like 30, 40 minutes earlier off of my request. And the flight was at like, we got there at like 3 a.m. instead of 3:30 a.m. And I was convinced that was going to solve everything. We got to Heathrow at my own request before security opened.
Yeah, and luckily it gave us enough time to go to the other terminal. For some reason, you can't go at DIA, or I think in any airport that I've been to, once you go through security, it's kind of like free range. You can kind of, in most cases, like small airports might be different.
I'm proud to be an American.
But yeah, you can like kind of go to the different terminals. But at Heathrow, like you have to go to the terminal that your flight is coming out of, which I guess makes sense if it's like that huge airport. But it was also like, we tried to go through security and the system was literally like, go to terminal B or terminal 2. And we were like,
How?
Where? How?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What does it mean? What does it mean? And we like flagged down a guy and we were like, we were just going to get through security and go to terminal 2 from there. And he was like,
oh, scan it again.
And so he scanned it again, and he was like,
the
yeah,
gate
you
still
can't.
wouldn't open, and he was like, well, shit, okay.
He was like, yeah, you got to go to terminal 2, and we were like, oh, okay. And
But
luckily, we were there so early.
We got there, we got through the terminal, we were able to go to the lounge for breakfast, where we found out that Maia loves baked beans when in Europe for breakfast. That's
really
fun.
do.
I, shocking no one, big sausage guy. Loved all the sausages.
What? No. That's crazy.
One time, so Lydia helps with the speech and debate team, and we order dinner for the kids at one tournament, and Lydia goes and gets it, and it's a bunch of like hamburger pizzas, and we get hamburger pizzas all the time, and the kids don't like it. The kids want pepperoni, but I had too much pepperoni growing up as a kid.
Oh, so now you're like,
and I think
no.
it's like kind of sweaty and spicy and salty, and I just don't want it. Sweaty being a really key word in there, though.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not
Sweaty
a big fan.
meat is weird.
Yes, thank you. So we never get it, and so the kids open it up, always hoping for pepperoni, and it's never pepperoni. And Lydia overheard one of the kids one time open it up and go, "God, why does Thomas like sausage so much?" And Lydia like ran to find me to share that story. The kids don't know.
If only they knew.
There's always, the juniors and seniors always know, and the
Yeah.
freshmen and sophomores never know.
That's
and
fun.
then, oh, actually, hold on. I am going to share this story.
Okay.
I feel okay sharing this story.
Okay.
So, we had a bunch of seniors in the room, and I was working with them on their like debate cases and things. And I was getting on a senior for classic like senioritis, didn't want to do the thing that we all know he needed to do. And he hadn't realized that one of our freshmen had walked in at the time. So he looked at me in a joking way, don't love this joke, but in a joking way, and goes, "Dang, mister, did you get a fight with your boyfriend or something? What kind of mood are you in right now?" And I'm like, oh my God, just like sit down and do the thing I asked you to do. But one of the freshmen, who I think we had all forgotten was in the room, looks at me and goes, "Wait, you're gay?" No, wait. He goes, "Wait, you're gay? I just thought you were acting that way to be funny." Oh, my entire personality? To say the funniest and meanest thing at the same time a child has ever said to me.
Ouch.
I mean, but also like incredible
That's pretty
line
funny.
delivery.
Yeah, that's pretty
absolutely. No one tell my students that I thought that was funny, please. Don't tell a single soul.
No. Yeah, that won't be made into a
That's
reel.
okay. So yeah, so things have been good. It's nice to get back to life. It's going to be in the 60s in Denver next week. It's Princess Diana season. You know what that means?
Bike shorts, big shirt.
Bike shorts, big shirt, chunky running shoe. And I'm thinking about getting a gray Nebraska crew neck that says Nebraska on it.
That would be very
Thank
Princess
you.
Diana.
I know I'm like 7 years late on that trend, but I think it's finally appropriate for like dad bods to wear it. So stay tuned.
I love it.
Do you want to talk to us about getting ghosted?
Yeah, I do.
All right, let's hear it. I'm excited to hear this story. Maya and I have gotten really good at not telling each other what our stories are. For me, the secret has been not deciding until about 48 hours before I see her what story I'm going to do, and then just managing to avoid her the one day before. That's been my secret. Maya's more put together than I am.
I just tell Casey if I really need to like talk about it. I don't know. I'm just better at keeping secrets. I just shut my mouth.
And the Bohawks are such like reliable listeners. Lydia doesn't want the stories to be
Yeah,
run.
she's
so I
so
have
funny.
no one in my life to talk to about
Somebody,
these.
whenever we talk about the podcast around her, she's like, "No, don't
Hold
say
on,
it. I don't want to know."
Is it a published episode or not? I need to know.
Like, Okay.
Lydia, we love you to death. We love you
You're
to
amazing.
death. And we're hoping potentially she's going to get featured in next week's episode, so you guys can hear her at least. All right.
Okay.
Well.
I feel like every time I do a story, I'd always try and find like a gotcha moment.
Right.
You know, and I kind of struggle to do that. So I'm opening with a kind of like an anecdotal personal story, and then we're going to get into some things that kind of relate to what happens in the personal story. Unfortunately, this personal story isn't actually mine.
Which is why we can commodify it.
Yes. And so I'm going to be keeping it super fucking vague.
Oh,
like
fine.
I took
Okay.
almost every identifying feature out of it, but you
Okay.
still get the general gist of it. It's just not my experience. It's not my information to like share to the applicable parties or anything
Sure.
like that. I wasn't there. So that's what's happening. What I'm saying is it's an open case.
Okay.
And I can't say anything about it, and don't go looking too hard.
I've been watching so much Downton Abbey this week. Being in London kind of like messed up
fair.
with my television taste recently and rewatching it. I'm already into season 2. I forget how boring Edith is at the start.
It's funny because you love Edith,
And
right?
season 6.
Yeah, season 6.
And kind of seasons 4, 5 too. But seasons 1, 2, just miserable background character.
That's fair.
Anyways, a rumor, a secret that you
Yeah.
heard secondhand, a
Yes,
story.
a story.
You know I'm already strapped in.
I know. I'll tell you all the identifying features later.
I didn't want to assume, but I was going ahead and assuming.
Yes, that seems
Okay.
fair. Okay. So, this is a cold case that is out of the state in the southwest of the U.S., and it started in 1980.
Okay.
Like, the crime happened in 1980. A man, for the sake of the story, we'll call him Ben. That's obviously a fake name. He disappeared randomly one day in 1980. Reportedly, Ben went for a hike in the area he worked in and never returned. And since then, no one has discovered really anything about what happened. He left behind a family, I think a wife. I'm not sure if they had any kids. Ben's family and the investigators suspect foul play, as the area he disappeared in was linked to drug trafficking around the time. It's thought he ran into a wrong group, maybe on the hike, and something bad happened to him. And that's basically all the information that the investigators have per the article that was published in 2022.
Okay, so just a year or two ago.
Yeah, and this started in 1980, so he's been gone for a long time. So this is where the story gets personal, and I won't be giving out any details as, like I said, this wasn't my experience, and I therefore cannot be the one to guarantee that this is correct information or whatever. My friend, we'll call him Gordon, is significantly older than me and used to live in around the area where the disappearance occurred. Like, not really close, but kind of close. He was a regular at a bar in the area. He might have had a problem at the time.
Okay.
And was on a first-name basis with the other regulars and the bartender at this bar. One day he sees a news article or sees a news playing while at the bar, and the family of Ben is doing an interview to keep the story of Ben's disappearance alive. At this point, he'd been missing for like maybe 10 years. I'm not sure exactly when this happened. Gordon is talking to the bartender and says, "Hey, that Ben guy looks a lot like you. That's crazy." The next day, the bartender's gone. Gordon never sees him again.
What?
Yeah. Gordon's theory is that Ben wanted to escape his life, and so he ghosted his old life and started a new one and skipped town whenever
And you
anyone
know Gordon
recognized
in
him.
this story.
Isn't that
Was
juicy?
Gordon in the town Ben had disappeared in?
I don't think so. I think it was
Okay.
like around the same
Sure.
area. I'm not sure if it was like maybe a state away or something,
Whoa.
but yeah.
What a great episode. Thank you guys so
That was my exact reaction when I heard it. I was like, "What? What do you mean?"
Okay. I kind of have a game plan
Yeah.
for if I do need to flee the country.
Okay.
Obviously, this is 98% a joke. But the trick is timing. You need to make sure that you have about 6 hours from the moment you choose to flee to before anyone catches you.
Anyone notices that you're
Because
gone.
that's about how long it takes for you to fly down to Cancun and then get through customs from Denver. And my
Fun.
plan, which now I'll have to change it now that I'm sharing it with everybody, is to just kind of go down to one of those resorts and become the activities director.
That would be so fun, though.
Thank you. Right? Thank you.
You can plan weddings?
Live live a modest life.
Yeah.
We had a little shack on the beach, things like that. My ability to speak English means that the American tourist families trust me when we book a catamaran, you know?
Yeah.
And then I slowly learned Spanish from like immersing myself
In the
with my
culture.
new fake name, Dr. Tom Allen, but the doctorate's in English. So like don't ask me
Don't
to do
ask,
any
yeah,
medicine
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But it adds like an air of legitimacy to it. The only issue is I never have enough cash to pull it off.
And he also doesn't really have a valid reason
Right,
to
I
escape the
I
country.
actually really love the beautiful little life I've built for myself. But those two reasons aside, pulling the trigger.
Exactly. Okay, so
Do you have a getaway plan?
I've never thought about it. I'm sure I'd come up with
That's
one in
wild.
the spot.
Between you and me, I kind of figured you'd have several. I think it's kind
I
of
think
quirky
I have
that I
them in
have
the back
one.
of my plan. I don't think I've like solidified anything because I'd never had the need to. Like,
Sure. You had a lot of good questions when you were going over Agatha Christie's story. So yeah, I do kind of believe that
I
it would
listened
come
to a
like
lot
a duck
of
to
true
water.
crime. Yeah, I think it would. I think it would become me. Life on the lam. Okay, so sometimes people just want to ghost their current lives and
Right.
become someone new entirely, as Grant just said, and
It's fun to have a plan.
as Ben probably did. Whether societal pressure, boredom, financial issues, etc., this is probably a feeling that everyone has kind of felt in some way or another. But in the late 1600s, early 1700s.
Oh,
yeah.
we're going way back.
Oh, yeah.
Too much in the 1920s. I had to go back even further.
No, we'll get into it.
Okay.
Instead of running away to become a barkeep, as Ben might have done, what do you think people would run away to do?
Can I give an honest guess? Pirating.
Yes!
Yes! Because you said 1700s, and just because of like the eternal curse that is a history education degree, in my mind I'm like, okay, so like colonization in the Americas has like definitely started, but it's not necessarily something
Big, yeah.
right. It's not like you're dreaming of moving to the big city of like New Amsterdam or whatever. So you're either in kind of like the Eastern Hemisphere or you're living like a really rugged life. And even if you are trying to escape, surely you don't have to go like that degree.
Exactly.
And then I was like, but like life on a boat, port to port, could be really fun. And then you were like, what would you do, Grant? I was like, pirate.
It would be a pirate. Pirate.
I told you how close I got to looking like a pirate once, right? I was
Probably.
skiing in Whistler, Canada. And Whistler, Canada, gorgeous. The only thing up there is a ski resort. And then it's just nestled in the Canadian wilderness. So everything around it at least feels and looks old. I don't know the actual ecological history of the area. But one time I was up there skiing with a group of friends, Lydia and Jacob on either side of me. And there's just a second where you stare at these ancient trees all around you as like the snow's falling. It's so cool. But I am not nearly good enough of a skier to space out for a second.
No.
And the next thing I know, I am like Pokemon / Dragon Ball Z sliding
No!
across. Honestly, like in a really funny way.
Yeah.
Like, but as I like hit the ground, the pole comes up and hits me in the mouth. And what's important to remember when I go skiing, I oftentimes put on a bandana to keep my head warm, and it's a little bit thinner than like a beanie. And I had really been exploring some stud earrings at the time. And if I had lost a tooth,
Yeah,
I
that
would have
been like peg leg McGee.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, I think, booty something or another. We'd have to work booty into it. Fortunately, the pole came up and just smacked me straight in the gums. But like even half an inch lower down, and I am losing some of it. Oh yeah, I pop up and Lydia's like, hey, you, just real casual, like, see if you have all your teeth real quick, because my mouth is just like filling with blood in this moment. Got them all. They're not great teeth, but they're all there
They're
still.
there.
And they're really bloody in that moment. But it's all fine. I'm here, and
Oh my god.
had a great trip. We'll go back to Whistler in a second.
So anyway, Grant can't be a pirate. I don't know.
I mean, here's the thing. I've just gotten a lot closer to it than I think a lot of other people have who are listening.
yeah, that's fair. At least the look, the aesthetic.
Every episode, eventually we will stop, or at least I will stop having this emotion. Every episode I sit down and I'm like, I don't know what else there is left in me. Like, I think I've told them every fact about my life.
think that all
I think
the
I've
time.
shared every story that we have now ran out of juice. And then you say, what would you do in the 1600s? And I was like, well, when I was in Whistler 2 years ago, no, This is what being in my classroom is like, by the way. I want you to know I'm the most distractible teacher in the world.
I would love that.
I think you had a story
I
at
did.
a certain point.
Okay, so we're in the
You were one line into your story.
We're in the late 1600s,
Goodness
early
sake.
1700s, aka the golden age of piracy, baby.
I actually have a whole other pirate story, but I'm going to wait on it. I'm going to sit on it for a little bit.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So the pirate age or the golden age of piracy, like the end and start dates are a little like, I don't know. They fluctuate depending on who you're asking, but in this case, we're saying 1650 to 1720. Can you name any famous pirates?
Blackbeard.
Yep.
And
do you know Blackbeard's actual name?
James Morgan?
No. Okay.
Jameson? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so
is it Bacardi?
Yeah.
Malibu.
Captain Morgan.
I'm just naming rum brands now.
So some of them are Henry Morgan, William his nickname was Captain Kidd, Calico Jack Rackham, Bartholomew Robbo.
Jack Rackham?
Oh, we get into him.
Oh, that's a fun name. Calico Jack Rackham sounds like a pool shark, and I guess in a certain way he was.
I'll spoil this right now, but Calico Jack Rackham was one of the main inspirations for Captain Jack Sparrow.
Was he really? Oh, wow. First names even, too. Yeah. Okay. All right.
He wasn't like the inspiration. There's another another pirate, I can't remember his name, but his nickname was actually Sparrow, and Calico Jack Rackham and this guy had a lot in common.
In a lot of ways, I feel like Pirates of the Caribbean was the last great movie before streaming took over. And what I mean by that is years after it came out, when you saw it on TBS, you would just kind of spend the afternoon then watching it.
Because they would do all of it. It's like Harry Potter. Like you can't, they don't just play one, they play all of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are in the middle of cooking or about to do laundry, and you're like, what a perfect background soundtrack. Exactly. Times are easier.
Okay. So we're going to go into kind of the background of the golden age of piracy for a second. So following Christopher Columbus's establishing contact with the Americas and Europe, large Spanish ships called galleons were forced to sail together in fleets, and some of those ships were armed for protection. There's a bunch of different like categories kind of pirates, as we would call them now. So one of them is corsairs. Pirates, these were pirates who operated in the Mediterranean Sea in the 15th and 18th century. I'm not sure what happened to the 16th and 17th century, but whatever.
I think I have an idea, but we don't need to do like a whole history lesson about it.
It's fine. These notes are long, so.
Gotcha. Okay, so go the fuck up. Go.
Muslim corsairs like Barbossa, aka Redbeard brothers, had bases along North Africa's Barbary coast. Christian corsairs were based on the island of Malta. They would approach their targets in oar-powered boats called galleys to carry off sailors and passengers. These prisoners essentially would be freed if they were able to pay a ransom. Otherwise, they were sold as slaves. Real cute. Corsairs were usually treated separately from pirates as we think of them today. The pirates that we think of today were operating often in the Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, and then the the coast of West Africa. Another category is buccaneers. These are kind of what we think about, I think, when we think of pirates. They lived on Caribbean island of Hispaniola and Tortuga in the 17th century. They began as hunters, but later governors of the island paid them to attack Spanish treasure ships.
Nice.
So this is how the pirate raids began, with official government backing. Eventually, it went out of control, and buccaneers attacked any ship that they thought to have valuable cargo.
Imagine a government funding terrorist operations and then that not going well.
That's nuts. I could never imagine that.
Thank God we learned that lesson 400 years ago.
Real quick, too. Real quick.
The curse of my history education degree continues.
So yeah, these are the true pirates, kind of as we think of them today. And then there are privateers. These are sailors essentially on privately owned ships, not owned by the Navy or the government, which were armed with guns and operated in war times. The Admiralty, which is the courts ruling over the cases concerning ships and the sea, issued letters of marque allowing them to capture merchant vessels without being charged with piracy. So also kind of pirate-y, I don't know. Pirates became pirates as a result of social disruption. Do you want to talk about why pirates became pirates?
I mean, of all the things I've been like, well, let me know. I could say something more right now, but I'm not going to. I feel like social disruption. So is it like the 100 Years' War is happening, there's famine, there's like religious turmoil, and instead of living in that chaos, you instead migrate, and then job opportunities aren't as good as you think they are, and your ultimate job of like providing stability takes over, and you're really good at pointing guns and boarding ships.
That's basically...
Is that it? Did I get it?
That's essentially it, yeah.
Tale as old as time. Singing podcast.
In England, so this is what I wrote down. There are ultimately a lot of reasons people become pirates. In England, small farmers were forced off their lands by landowners. Small businesses were challenged by larger ones. So in the end, when these like small business owners essentially went out of business, they would flock to large urban areas, as they do now.
Right.
In London, where lots of people ended up in at least Europe, life was not much better. There was virtually no hope of making a better life, but piracy was always available as an option, and it tempted those people because it offered a chance to take control of their own lives. Yeah, another way to be successful when you were kind of living in that era was to often involve really long apprenticeships, which people couldn't afford to do because they needed money kind of for their families now.
Like right now, yeah.
Yeah, and so these people were tempted to go to the sea. Kids were also accepted as pirates, so it was also an option if like you were a 16-year-old going through your emo phase and you just like ran away, because pirates weren't really discriminatory.
They have like some really young kids on some of these ships though too,
yeah, because
right?
they're more
like
nimble. They're able to climb
9 years
higher.
old. Yeah. Little kids bounce back from Great Falls faster.
That's true.
I cannot fall down unintentionally
I can't
anymore.
fall down anywhere. So piracy allowed these individuals the chance to get rich quick and also exert a degree of power over other people, which I think had a lot of intrigue for them.
A lot of people, everyone wants to be middle management.
Exactly.
Nice. Okay.
So pirates were primarily Dutch or American, but there were a lot of other nationalities.
I feel like that does not get mentioned a lot.
No.
It was a lot of Americans who were like, well, screw this.
I'm out.
I'm going to steal.
Capitalism, baby.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's great.
So some of the other nationalities were Dutch, French. A lot of former African slaves and indigenous people actually ended up being pirates. And pirates were not really beholden to societal standards by any means. They all kind of adapted to what the situation called for, which included things like gender code switching, situational gayness, which I love. And all of this was kind of common in the life of a pirate, including like gender identity, sexual orientation, all of that.
So are you telling me they lived by the motto, be gay,
do crime.
Board ship, drink rum? None of this is permanent?
None of this is permanent. I love pirates.
I love pirates. They did it first.
They did. Do we need to pay them royalties?
Maybe. I don't know. It was my wordsmithing. I also think they'd be proud if we stole it from them. I think they'd be really into that.
Yeah. There are lots of anecdotal tales of homosexuality being actually pretty common in piracy. Whereas if you were in the British Royal Navy, there's a large code of conduct and there's severe punishment for any kind of homosexuality. In the pirate codes, where it would be standard to mention that kind of thing in your code of conduct, it's never mentioned.
Love that.
And so that is kind of like a hint that they were kind of cool with that kind of stuff.
Join piracy. See the world. Have the best hookup of your life.
And it's probably going to be gay because we think women on ships is unlucky. So.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Lee, for that forever
I did
sound.
finger guns last night. I got drinks with Lee and Zach.
Good.
And I did finger guns, and Zach was like, "Finger guns means you're bi, right?" And I was like, "Okay, first of all,
They do.
but yes."
You and Lee do them. I do it as
real.
a bit, but like as like in community.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So I got that particular anecdote and then a lot of the other stuff that we'll talk about later from a podcast called History is Gay. And it's a really great podcast. This particular episode, I was like listening to it and I was like, I should like reference what episode it is. And I saw number 1 and I was like, that can't be right. It is their first episode.
Oh, shut up.
Literally ever.
That's their Michael Malloy.
Yeah.
That's
And I was
so
like,
fun.
that's cool.
Everyone remembers their first.
That's really
They
That's
do.
really cool.
I remember Michael Malloy. We recorded it twice.
I know. I remember
Little
Michael
podcast
Malloy
lore.
a lot. Yeah.
It's canon.
Okay, so now we're in the age of pirates and of the New World. However, there are still some really stupid people out there, and one of them is the first subject of today's episode. So this person was recommended to us from a Patreon member, Abby
nice.
C, and I'll talk about like kind of why she recommended him at the end of his little section here.
Okay.
We're going to talk about Stede Bonnet.
I want to point out that you give me such a hard time for providing outlines at the start of our stories, but you do it too, kind of a little
Here's
bit.
the thing is that as I was writing these notes, I was like, I don't have time to like really consider how I'm going to present this story. So I'm going to take a note out of the next one is even worse because it's really like setup, history, foundation.
Oh, you mean how I've written every episode that I have done?
I gave up, man. I gave up.
It's nice to have a structure.
I did write a really detailed intro, though, so get ready.
Okay, sorry, Abby.
Yes. Is her name Abby? Yes, Abby C. Okay, Stede Bonnet. He was born in 1680, and he was, we're going to be in the year 1717. So he's at the age of 37. He is an ex-army major and a plantation owner who's pretty well off in Barbados.
Ooh.
Yes, well off and you can decide how that is
Right.
taken. So he decides that he's kind of sick of life. Marital difficulties, a nagging wife. He's just generally bored.
Surely enslaving hundreds.
Yeah, maybe
It's
financial
a plantation
reasons.
in the Caribbean. I mean, that is what he is doing.
Exactly. There's some, like, people are kind of speculative of why he did what comes next. Some of those reasons are marital difficulties, a nagging wife, boredom, potential financial difficulties, political reasons, or maybe an actual mental break.
Does he become gay?
No.
Okay. So you're just like, well, pirate's really gay, and then this guy
No.
had a bad wife. And I was
This
like,
guy
are
is
you,
not the gay
are you-
one.
Okay, I was like, are you saying his wife made him gay and a pirate?
Ouch. Ouch.
Queen.
Yeah, honestly.
Call her mother. Like, I don't know what to say.
So he decides that, like, life here isn't great, but that stuff on the sea, that seems kind of fun. So I'm going to become a pirate. And remember when I said most people became pirates because they were already poor and had a
Right.
desperate need to, like, take care of their family?
Yeah.
A lot of people became pirates by, like, stealing and commandeering ships. This
Right.
man literally bought a ship and hired his whole crew,
Like, salaried.
basically. Yeah.
I love a pirate that doesn't work on commission.
Exactly. So some of the reasons that he might have gone and done this, around this time there's a legal record that he borrowed a large sum of money, and that might be indicating financial strain, maybe due to like a weather incident wiping out all of his crops, or I was thinking maybe he could have used this to buy the ship, I'm not sure. But he was also known to be a Jacobite. I always anyway, it's a weird word. So that means he supported James Stewart III as the King of England over the German-born George I. And a lot of pirates, most pirates, also supported George I.
It's crazy to think that they'd have opinions about the English monarchy. But
Here's the thing, is that they're not sure, like, historians aren't super sure if this was out of loyalty or just animosity towards any sort of leadership.
Them and Goodwin, anarchists.
Yeah, they were just like, we don't care who it is, but we don't want that guy on the throne. Whoever's sitting on it, don't want him.
Imagine a Mary Shelley Frankenstein pirate crossover. I'm also really proud of us for hitting like basically every Halloween costume over the last 3 episodes.
That's really true.
Frankenstein, murder mystery, and now we have pirate.
Hell yeah, baby. So, like I said, he bought a ship, named it Revenge,
Nice.
even though he had one of the articles that I read said no one knows why he chose the name Revenge. Maybe he just thought it sounded piratey. He actually had no one to, like, revenge against.
It's giving man who wears loaded gun to target. You know, it's like, sir,
What are you
What
doing?
are you doing, right? They are serving pumpkin spice lattes in that corner, and you're watching your wife pick out wicker baskets.
Like, what's
What
happening?
are you doing?
That's literally...
The ship was called Revenge.
Yeah, he was like, it's gonna be a revenge. And they're like, against who?
And
he's
his
like, I don't know.
salaried crew is like,
Yeah.
all right.
Exactly. So he outfitted this ship with, I think it said 10 cannons, and hired 70 pirates, and then became a pirate.
70 pirates.
Yeah. Crew members, sailors, I don't know, people
He
who...
started a fraternity. Okay.
Literally.
And today we know it as AZD. I'm kidding.
It's literally
I
what's
don't
happening.
think that's. I think that's a sorority. Actually, the acronym.
ADD.
I said AZD.
AZD, probably.
Yeah. Apologies. I was trying to target the men.
Zeta, Delta, I don't know. Yeah, whatever. So as it turns out, it's kind of hard to just like switch jobs without training, you know? So he was a bad pirate.
Imagine no one's shocked.
Yeah.
I am shocked that the 70 other pirates were bad.
So he was not a good pirate and an even worse leader. He did manage to seize...
Is he a principal? Sorry. No, I love my current principal. She's great. I haven't loved all the principals I've worked for, but my current principal is fantastic.
It's great. Yeah.
I've said good things about her too.
You have.
That is on the record.
Yeah, he does like you.
But I've had a lot of them.
Yeah. Exactly. So, Stede Bonnet is Grant's previous principal, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And about the two before him as well.
Cool. So he did manage to steal a few prizes off the coasts of the Carolinas and Virginia. A few were loaded with treasures from the transatlantic trade.
Okay.
These successes, however, were largely due to the talent of his crew and not at all due to him being a good pirate or leader.
I understand that so deeply.
The reason his crew did not depose of him, because in pirate world there's
Right.
like if you have a bad leader, like goodbye.
Right.
They didn't depose of him because he was paying them all pretty generously.
A consistent salary, and he is the salary.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of pirates are like, I'm going to pay you the least amount possible.
I'm also only going to pay you with like what we capture.
Like a single diamond that's
Right.
like half a carat.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
they are being salaried and still occasionally capturing
Yeah, they're
things.
like, I mean, this is fine.
I mean, actually, that's exactly how bonuses are supposed to work.
Exactly. So some sources differed. Some said this next part happened in Honduras. One said in Florida. I'm not sure. In that general area. Him and his crew went to spend their bounty on some tropical area.
Okay.
This is where Bonnet met a man named Edward Teach. Edward Teach is another pirate captain, and the two men decide to set sail together. Teach observed Bonnet as a captain, and eventually he was like, yo, you're kind of bad at this. Do you mind if like you hand over command to me, an experienced pirate captain? And so Bonnet's like, okay, I guess.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and so Bonnet...
Man Crush Monday. Wow.
Yeah. So Bonnet was transferred over to Teach's ship, where he stayed as a guest/de facto prisoner. He just walked onto this guy's ship and was like, okay.
Well, I guess apprenticeships aren't that hard to find during this time.
And then Teach had one of his lieutenants take over as the new captain of the Revenge, and this lieutenant was accepted as the captain.
They were
by
like,
the crew.
yeah, that's fine.
They're like, this makes sense, actually. The ship that Teach put Bonnet on, called the Queen Anne's Revenge. Do you recognize that?
I mean, other than the fact that it's revenge with more words to it.
Yeah.
I mean, vaguely, Queen Anne's Revenge, a little bit. But I don't know. Maybe it just sounds like a name. Why would I know
Edward Teach is more commonly known as Blackbeard.
Oh, I love a little cameo. That's fun. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why Stede Bonnet, I think, more reasonably was like, yeah, take my ship, bro.
Wait, was Blackbeard just a huge fan of Queen Anne?
I read the reason why he did this. I think it was some kind of revolt of the monarchy. I don't remember. Look it up, I guess, if you want. I didn't write it down. Anyway. I don't think he was a fan, is the answer.
Okay.
Yeah. So Stede, once he realized that he's basically a prisoner to Blackbeard, is like pissed about it. And so he plans his revenge.
So he's on the Queen Anne's Revenge, plotting his revenge to get the revenge back. I love it. I love it. I just love wordplay.
It's not good wordplay. It's like a rapper who can't really rhyme. Just keeps rhyming the same word.
It's like you just rhymed bad with bad. Like, do you know how many hard A sounds there are in the English language?
Bad with bag.
Exactly.
So this is where the records get a little murky. A lot of the sources I was looking at kind of disagreed on the order that these things happened in. So I'm going to tell you kind of the TLDR of what happens.
Are these records coming from pirates?
From like anecdotal tales, there are some official records, but everything is kind of rumor. And you know, and pirates kind of control their rumors. So it's like a lot of it could be based off of what pirate is saying what.
It's kind of funny to me to think of a pirate keeping records, but then also it is a small business, and you do need a record of things.
You do need a record of things, yeah.
Like at the end of the day, a pirate needs a scribe. is the pen mightier than the sword? It's not.
It's not.
But the pen can track it.
Fair enough. I'm a little confused, but fair enough.
It's a little European callback. You guys wouldn't know because it was just us.
It's an internet meme. Okay. Anyway, Steed gets a royal pardon and planned to get
from his piracy?
No, from from the governor of I think Honduras.
Okay.
I'm not sure. It might have been New Providence, which was like a pirating stronghold at the time. But he gets a royal pardon, and this was happening a lot. A lot of governors and rulers were offering royal pardons to pirates to get them to essentially stop being pirates and maybe even work for the crown and hunt down pirates.
Oh.
Or work in their favor to capture like enemy vessels and stuff like that. So you needed a royal pardon so that you wouldn't get hanged for your crimes of piracy, but these were experienced like people on the ocean. So they were assets if you could get them to work for you. Unfortunately, it was kind of hard to get them to work for you because they're pirates.
Yeah, because what are they going to do as soon as they have their pardon? Probably going back to doing whatever the hell they want.
Which is pirating.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The thing they're really good at.
Yeah. So he gets his royal pardon and he plans to get clearance to become a privateer, which if you remember correctly is like
the legal pirate.
The legal pirate aboard his boat, the Revenge. And some sources say that Blackbeard might have been with him at the time that he got the pardon, meaning that Blackbeard also got the pardon. Anyway, Blackbeard, I think, knows of his plan to go back to Revenge, and Blackbeard betrays Bonnet. Bonnet eventually finds out, some way or another, that Blackbeard has stripped and abandoned Revenge and marooned 25 of his crew members on an island. And so Steed basically...
I don't know why I'm shocked that a pirate would do that. Of course a pirate would do that. Exactly. And I'm like, well, and what did the boat ever do to you?
Yeah.
Leave the boat out of this.
He paid for that.
Exactly.
His good plantation money.
And those 24... good plantation money. Yikes. Also, like, what are those 25 people? Were those the ones still loyal to Steve?
I don't know.
Also, it's weird to think of a pirate named Steve.
It's not Steve. It's Steed.
I'm sorry. Maya, go ahead and run that by me again real quick.
It's Steed?
His name's Steed Bonnet?
Stede, yes.
Listener, have you also been thinking she's been saying Steve this entire time?
I should have spelled it right off the get-go.
A pirate named Steve is stupid but funny. A pirate named Steed, the name of a horse, a famous land animal, that's lazy writing.
Steed is not spelled the same way as this guy, Steed.
Oh, good. Well, then that solves all the questions then, doesn't it? That ties it up nicely. My bad. Don't know why I was confused. What do you mean his name was Steed?
I don't.
His name was Steed Bonnet?
Yeah, I don't know why his parents did that to him. That's pretty fucking rude. Was it a mistake?
What was his pirate name?
Well, we're getting there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he did have a nickname. It's not it's fine.
Was it Stallion? Was it Steve?
Steve. He's like, no, it's Steed, I swear.
Like, we're not going to listen to you.
Okay, so essentially Steed gets Revenge back, and now he does have his royal pardon.
What's left of Revenge.
Yeah. He gets his ship back, and he was planning on becoming a privateer. But at this point, he's pissed at Blackbeard. So he returns to pirating, like, almost immediately. Because now he has a revenge that he has to get.
What his character really needed was motivation.
Exactly. So he started pirating in 1717. All of what I had just said happens before his return to pirating now in July of 1718. So it's been about a year. So yeah, I'm unsure of the order of that.
It's a really busy year.
Yeah. I'm not unsure of the order that all of that like betrayal and pardoning and going back to pirating happened in. But there you have it. So Bonnet manages to take his ship back. He picks up his men and continues being a pirate. This time, slightly better than before. He's learned some things.
Yeah, and he's mad.
Yeah, and he's pissed. So he begins abusing his crew, killing prisoners, threatening civilians.
I was on his side. Oh, no. Okay. Sorry. No, I'm here. So again, don't know why I'm shocked a pirate would do it, but it is shocking to hear Steed doing things like this.
Exactly. And so he gains himself a bit of a fearsome reputation and gains the nickname the Gentleman Pirate because he has like an educated upbringing.
Okay.
And he was a gentleman, like objectively by societal standards for a while. So
but the Gentleman Pirate will absolutely execute you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's his pirate nickname.
It's the Gentleman Pirate.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Still kind of lame.
I know, right? That's why I said that's okay.
Like sad with it, try to get excited about it.
Yeah,
still
that's
pretty
fine.
lame.
It's
So,
like okay, I guess. So in order to evade detection by authorities, because now he has signed a royal pardon, become a privateer, and then turned his back on that and become a pirate again, he changes his name to Captain Edwards and the name of the ship to Royal James.
What?
It doesn't fool anyone. I don't know why
Okay, I was going to say, what?
Everyone, I think, was kind of like,
if you are such a weird pirate that your nickname is Gentleman Pirate, I don't think changing your not nickname to Edward or repainting the ship.
Yeah, also now you finally have revenge.
Right.
And now you're going to be, what, Royal James? What?
Also, revenge finally actually kind of starts to click now.
Yeah.
Like, increasingly, I'm like, okay, revenge.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I'm liking that.
Go off, queen. So yeah, that didn't fool anyone. Eventually, a British naval expedition found Bonnet, and since he's basically on the lam now, though they find him, at anchor in Cape Fear River estuary. He's on the lam, so basically, like, there is a warrant out for his arrest.
Right.
There's a fight, but they end up capturing him and his crew. There's a whole list of things that happened, and I just kind of wrote down the I don't know.
So
the
he's
bullet
been
points.
captured again.
So he's captured by him and his crew are captured. Bonnet escapes. He was recaptured a few weeks later and taken to Charleston, where he was tried. And during his trial, he tried to take advantage of his upper class background and appeal to the governor and try and blame everything on Blackbeard, essentially.
Oh. And like, I'm a gentleman.
I'm a gentleman.
You're thinking of what Blackbeard did, and I'm just out trying to get him
Blackbeard's the one that
illegal
stole my
vigilante
ship.
style.
Exactly.
And surely I, the inventor of a midlife crisis. Oh, shut up. Is that a point we're getting to later?
No, I'll tell you about it in a second. Okay, so yeah, midlife crisis, big time. So his trial was notably very long by standards at that time, especially for piracy. It was basically like a Salem witch trial, like, plead your case. Okay, well, we all know you were a pirate.
If he drowns in the river, we were wrong and we're sorry. Do it!
It was basically like, yeah, you were a pirate, right? And they're like, not guilty. And then the court's like, okay, but you were a pirate.
Right, exactly.
Like,
you're not fooling us with this one.
Go hang, I guess. Yeah, and so by the time his trial ends, his entire crew has been dead for weeks.
Oh.
Yeah, because their trial was short. I don't know why you...
Listener, I'm
probably being too brash.
No, Maia does such a good job of like inviting you in, and she's like so like chummy about it. And she'll deliver you a line, and you're like, "Oh my god, I forgot we were talking about like criminals and the early 1700s."
Yeah, the penalty was death.
Right.
Every time.
Can I say, in the last episode, we talked about how the Germans have a really extreme punishment if you steal a cup from, and I just gotta forget that some cultures still love an insanely tough punishment for the crime. Okay, so all of his employees are dead.
Yep.
And what happened? And is he found guilty?
We're getting there.
Okay.
So he has a really long trial, and notably, this is, quote, one of the most valuable historical records we have about Bonnet and Blackbeard, because they really went into detail about their like whole relationship,
and, like,
basically. Because he's trying to convince the court that it's all Blackbeard's fault.
Ladies and gentlemen, and if it please the court, Mr. Bonnet, what was it like when you guys would hang out? What's going on there? What's Blackbeard's eyes like? Excuse me, leading the witness.
Yeah. Excuse me, leading the witness. But yeah.
So wait for just like weeks. They're like, "What's he like?" And he was like, "I would love to tell you."
Basically.
And meanwhile, outside, executions of all of his coworkers are happening. And he goes, and then the times we'd get up to in Barbados. So crazy night. We just went right, and it was like just won a card game. I have 2 pistols and 3 quarters to my name, and it's like, I bet it was a great trial.
Right? I bet it was a sensation. I want to see it.
I know this about us for a fact because we started a podcast.
Yeah.
That means we are the people 200 years ago who'd absolutely just sit in on a trial, who would absolutely just be like, this is my plan today.
That would be so good. I would be so thrilled with my life. Yeah, so he was tried and convicted of 2 counts of piracy and sentenced to death by hanging.
Okay.
And executed December 10th of 1718.
Oh, they actually got him.
Yeah. Remember when I said he became a pirate in 1717? Just process that for a moment.
It's like the even worse version of buying some like famous social media app and then becoming the most hated person in the country 1 year later. I think for legal reasons I cannot actually say this man's name.
You all know.
But you know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
So.
I'm sorry. They killed him. Okay.
It was
In a weird way, I'm like, well, all of his crew died, so I think I would have been upset if he kind of like got away with it. But also, like, if he did get away with it, he then needs to be like living to be 100, not like 4 more weeks.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So he died.
So after he gushed about him and Blackbeard's relationship,
hung.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So this story about Stede Bonnet is like what kind of drew me into piracy, and then I have a whole nother like part of it. But so Abby C is the one that recommended this. She recommended it to us on Patreon. She produces a musical comedy and burlesque show called Teas of the Seas.
Oh.
Which is at Teas of the Seas on Instagram if you're interested. It's at the Texas Renaissance Festival, and she thought Stede Bonnet, or as she calls him, quote, the worst pirate of all time, would make a good topic. She actually recommended a theme to us of midlife crisis for Stede Bonnet.
Well,
so you're good at that.
Managed to find that one. That's fun.
Stede Bonnet and Blackbeard are featured on a show called Our Flag Means Death, which she also kind of recommended, and she said it's obviously dramatized, but it's still fun. So
is that on HBO?
I don't know.
I think I've seen like trailers of it. I've never really jumped into it. But
I've never jumped into it, but I literally hadn't even known that it existed. But yeah, Abby said that her life is basically living, breathing pirates, researching pirates for a couple months of the year every year. And
that's fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a fun time. So
go check out the Texas Renaissance Festival to see Teas of the Seas and get your pirate knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
Your notes are always so much more detailed. I never actually read her notes. I just see it like from the side of my eye, and I'm like, that is never what mine look like.
Oh, and then we have some pictures. So these are just like pictures of Stede Bonnet and Blackbeard. Like kind of obviously illustrations because cameras weren't
Blackbeard absolutely looks like a pirate. Mm-hmm. Stede
looks like he just walked onto a ship.
It's not even his front. They painted his back and he's like turning around. It's like a candid that he had to pose for hours.
It's like they all of the pirates have like this one picture that like is basically a Pokemon card for them, which is really funny. And that was Stede's.
Also, it is the most cartoonish
Jolly
pirate
Roger
flag in the background. Was it called a Jolly Roger?
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
I saw a quote and I didn't know how to like fit it into the story, but the quote was, "The pirate's first weapon was fear," and they did that with the Jolly Roger, and I thought that was like. Oh. Interesting. Yeah.
Also, Blackbeard has a sword actively, and Stede has like a really long gun that you can shoot from far away.
Which, I don't know, feels right.
Yeah, no, absolutely it does.
Yeah.
So Stede is the primer for our larger episode on pirates.
Yes. So the subject of today's episode, I was really struggling to find the gotcha moment for the opening. And so I really went down a rabbit hole.
Okay.
And I came across this fun fact. So I kind of talked about how anyone was welcome to become a pirate, essentially, regardless race, religion.
Anyone who wanted to ghost from their life could kind of
ghost from their life and become a pirate like fucking Stede Bonnet did. But you know who typically was not allowed on pirate ships?
I'm guessing women.
Women.
Because it would really mess up all the gay things that were happening.
But
I remember. It's maybe the only detail I remember.
But let me tell you, that fact did not stop some people.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So,
lady pirate. Like the one I saw on the sidewalk today. I'm not going to say anything else. Saw a character walking over here, and that was fun.
Yeah, sometimes in Denver, you just see people, I'm like, I think you might be the main character.
It was so funny, the Europeans who were like, oh, you're from Denver? Gross city to live in.
Yeah,
and you and I were both like, oh, okay. I love it here.
Like, I'm happy, but like, it's fine, whatever. Yeah. Every time that happened, I was like, say more.
Exactly. Listen, we've seen parts of your cities, okay? Yeah. Do not come for us.
Your city's all historical and shit, but ours has AC. Just kidding. I loved all the cities we visited. So we're going to talk about Anne Cormack, or as she will become, Anne Bonny.
Anne Bonny and Steed Bonnet are the characters of today's episode.
There's three more characters we're going to talk about.
That's exciting.
Anne is like our overarching theme, but there are several others
Anne
that come
Bonny.
in. Anne
Okay.
Bonny. So there's not much known about her early life, as is common with normal people also in like just the 1700s,
Okay.
you know? So she was born in Kinsale, County Cork, Ireland in the late 1600s. She was the illegitimate daughter of lawyer William Cormack and his servant Mary Brennan.
Ooh.
William had cheated on his wife while she was ill and living with her mother to recover. Yes.
Yikes.
Though
Not a good look.
Not a good look. Although Anne was illegitimate, William presented her as legitimate.
Oh. Okay.
But he dressed Anne as a boy and called her Andy.
Oh. Like, listen, I will claim this bastard child as long as it's a bastard son.
So that Andy could get work, I think, as an apprentice is what it was.
Okay.
Because obviously a little girl's not gonna.
Do we have any record as to how she felt about that?
You'll see.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if we like get a record of how she felt, but it becomes obvious.
Oh, is it when she becomes a pirate and starts killing all dads?
Maybe.
Process that trauma, girlies.
Hey, yes. So when William's wife found out about this, she made the news of his infidelity public. And since he's a lawyer and kind of lives in the public eye, to escape his ruined reputation, he and his new wife, which is Anne's mother, Mary Brennan.
Oh, he leaves his old wife?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know. I'm not sure if him and the other wife had children together. It wasn't super clear.
Okay.
But him and his new wife and Anne go to settle in the New World. And I couldn't find William's wife's name. I'm not just like failing the Bechdel test. I like legitimately couldn't find it.
Love that.
William was successful. Oh, and while we're talking about the Bechdel test, I also didn't get the name of Steed's wife, but I did have it at some point. I just didn't write it down. But I do find out that she remarries after Steed's death.
Good for her.
I love that for her.
Good for her.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever blamed a single woman ever on this podcast for anything.
I think I will.
Oh, except Margaret Singer. Never mind.
yeah,
there it is.
yeah.
I had to start running through all the episodes, and then you always hit that one, and you're like,
Margaret Singer,
except for the eugenics racist.
Yeah, that
right.
one,
Yep,
that one
yep,
was
yep.
problematic.
Since then, not a single woman has done a single bad thing on this podcast.
I don't think so. They're a product of their times. Yeah. We're not biased.
Call her mother.
William was successful as a lawyer and he had good knowledge of how to buy and sell goods. So the family was quickly able to buy a townhouse and eventually a plantation in Charleston, South Carolina.
Whoa.
Yeah. Anne's mother dies when Anne is 12. So then she is left to take care of her father's household. Her father tries to marry her off, but she is like, absolutely not.
Is she being presented as a woman again now that they're in the new world? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Anne had red hair and was considered a, quote, good catch. But had a, quote, fiery temper.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. So there are many stories about her in her teens. Unsure the truthfulness of any of them, obviously, because she's a pirate and who knows what has been embellished and not embellished. But here are some of those stories. One story says she murdered a servant girl when she was 13, when Anne was 13.
Holy Christ.
With a knife.
Again. You pull me in and then you just give me the like darkest sentence you could write.
I love that.
Oh my, with a knife?
With a knife.
It's not even like I didn't see the ladder and ran into it kind of thing.
Yeah, no, she just murdered her.
Murder.
I'm not sure what the servant girl did. Here's another one, though. Another story says that she put a young man in the hospital for several weeks by beating him with a chair after he tried to sexually assault her.
So it's not all bad.
Exactly. That sentence really takes you like, oh, and then like, oh, okay.
Because you're like a pattern of, okay, I'm vindicated.
Exactly. There is also a story that she was so skilled with a sword that she at one point undressed her fencing instructor with her sword while fencing. Hot.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I also say, so there is this incredible SNL skit that stars the late, great Betty White, and it's all the SNL female actresses are pretending to be this like Victorian era household, and they're like, "Come with us, Anne. Come with us to the dance." And Anne's like, "I don't want to." And they're like, "Well, why don't you want, Anne? Don't you want to dance with boys?" And Betty White plays this old woman in the corner, and her only line for the entire sketch is, "She's a lesbian." Or she doesn't want to because she's a lesbian. And then I think, like, as you get deeper into it, like, she has like a couple more lines. She goes, "If I could go back and do it all again, I'd do way more lesbian stuff now." Like, it's just like this old woman in this corner who's like, that daughter who doesn't want to put on a dress is a lesbian.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
I know. Okay, so in 1718, at the age of 16, she falls in love with a small-time...
I was really afraid you were going to say Stede Bonnet. And I was like,
dead.
That's his last year of life.
I know.
So one chapter ends and another begins.
So she falls in love with a small-time privateer and or poor sailor. Some sources differ. His name is James Bonny, though, and so that's... You can see where this is going. Her father did not approve, but she married him.
A pirate?
Yeah. Crazy. Her father did not approve, but she's stubborn, so she married him anyway. And I think James was hoping that everything would kind of work out and he would get her like father-in-law's or his father-in-law's estate. However, Anne was disowned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. It's not like Anne owed her dad anything.
Yeah.
But her dad left his first wife and his home, masqueraded her as a boy, moved them to the quote-unquote new world, right? Set up a whole new life in Charleston. Did all of these things to try to build a life. And she was like, "I'm going to become a criminal." And he was like, "Then leave." Then leave. I also love that even if he hadn't done all of that stuff for her, if she was like, "Well, me and my boyfriend, Clyde, Bonnie and Clyde, we're going to be very happy together." And he's like, "Not in this house. Not in this house of valuable small things."
Exactly. So Anne, I think as we've kind of figured out, is really stubborn and not good at not getting her way. So in response to getting disowned, she set fire to her father's plantation.
Well, if I don't get it, then I guess no one gets it. Huge Louise Belcher vibes, by the way, from Bob's Burgers.
Oh my God, that's so real.
The strongest theory I have in the entire world is that the 3 children in Bob's Burgers are the children Jacob and Lydia would raise if they ever chose to have children.
I want to see it happen.
And I weep a little bit for it, you know?
Yeah, like it would be so good.
Because they are my ski, hot tub, summer travel partners, you know? They are,
they can't have
my
kids,
significant others.
But I also want them to have kids.
Exactly. I think I can have kids, but I also think I could do a lot of work for Tina.
Oh my God. She needs some help, I think.
Love Tina.
I love her so much. She is my internal monologue.
Oh,
Actually, her and Louise, they flip on and off.
100%.
Yeah. So it turns out James really only wanted Anne for her estate, but they stay married, and he takes her with him to New Providence Island, which is a pirate hideout and stronghold in the Bahamas, aka the Republic of Pirates. Which does have a Wikipedia page, and
does it really?
Yeah, I opened the Wikipedia page and I was like, we don't have time. We don't have time.
Hold on, I'm just gonna open it up on my phone real quick, so that way when I get back home later and I'm trying to look something up, I'd be like, what? Oh,
Republic of Pirates. Yeah.
Sorry, I must load
you're good.
everything. I'm not done yet.
Okay.
That's tough to see.
What?
Nebraska's losing 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. Jesus.
That is top of the second half too. Oh yeah. There we go.
Welcome back.
I'm a sports boy.
I know. We know. So James had trouble supporting her, and in the end, turned from his life of piracy to make money as a pirate informer for the governor, Woodes Rogers. It's a weird name.
I kind of think that her only guiding principle is that she will harm who has ever wronged her seems to be just her North Star. She
Yes.
doesn't seem to respect or care for authority.
Much like pirates.
Correct.
So this wasn't great for Anne because, as I just mentioned, they had moved to New Providence Island, set up
Right.
a life, and she had made a lot of great pirate friends in New Providence, and so she considered her husband a traitor to his fellow conspirators. Yeah.
So continue.
She had taken on a number of lovers at this time. Sources kind of differ here.
Hot again.
Yeah. She makes a good friend, Pierre Bousbet. He is called... I wish I could do a whole story on this man, but there is just not a ton of information about him. His pirate name is the Pansy Pirate.
The Pansy Pirate. Well, now I'm interested.
Yes.
Now I'm invested.
So he kind of helps her escape, and there's a lot of different stories as to how, but he and her might have gone on her first pirating journey kind of together. It's not super clear.
You always remember your first.
Yes. And it should be mentioned, pansy, back in the day, didn't really mean coward. It meant more like maybe he liked other men.
Homosexual.
Yes. Yes.
Boo-boo-boo.
There was like one source I saw that was like, Pierre and Anne might have had a relationship. I was like, no.
Listen, a man and a woman hanging out together? Surely it's sexual.
Exactly. There was
Starts a podcast.
I would listen to that podcast.
I don't know. Well, there was always speculation about Grant and Maia, but he never married and was known for his eccentric collection of bandanas.
Exactly. Yes.
Thank you.
That's literally what's happening. And also another source said a well-known homosexual. So it's like,
Imagine being a poorly known homosexual. Like, he was, not a lot of people knew him, but those who did, gay.
and I don't want to stereotype, but also this man ran a coffee shop, hairdresser shop, and dressmaking shop in New Providence, a pirate stronghold.
Love the idea of, like, Cafe R.
I was like, you're going to look at this man and think, like, he's in love with Anne.
You're doing me wrong, bro. And what was her sister? A witch.
She wore a crown and she came down in a bubble, dog.
Wait, okay, so Anne and Pierre
Hanging out.
Anne has murdered and burnt down anything that was once hers.
Yes.
Not thrilled with her husband anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Pierre just absolutely living by his own rules.
Yeah.
And runs a small business.
He does.
You know, here's the thing. Back during the gold rush, both here in Colorado and further out west in California, it was kind of now historically commonly understood that the only people who ever really made any money during those gold rushes were the people who provided services to the miners.
Yeah.
So like washers, restaurateurs, bars, things like that. Has to be the same economic principle on Pirate Island, right?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So... yeah, I wish there was more information about this man. There just isn't,
Is
and
this
it's
where we
so
get
sad.
Peter Pan from? Because he lives on an island?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Bit of a stretch.
Didn't
All right,
actually look
that's
at that. So around 1719 in New Providence, she meets Captain Jack Calico Rackham. His nickname, or his pirate name is Calico.
Nice.
Yes, and he is friends with Pierre.
So he's cool with the gays, badass.
Yep.
Better pirate than her no good husband,
Yep.
who's a traitor.
Traitor, by the way. Yep, traitor. And we'll get into why his nickname is Calico. I think I have it written down
I
a
assume
little
a
bit
bad
later.
sunburn, but we'll find
No.
out.
He becomes her lover. James, her husband, found out about the infidelity and takes Anne to get punishment from the governor of New Providence.
What?
Which is strange to me, but apparently that was like, what you did? I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe it was a pirate thing. I don't know. But the punishment would have been flogging. And so
Oh.
around this time, she's like, fuck no.
Right.
And so...
I will murder again.
yes.
Okay, sorry.
So to avoid this, Calico Jack, her lover, offers to give James money to divorce Anne to like kind of get her out of this
sure,
punishment.
sure.
And James probably refuses, but most notably Anne refused because she didn't want to be sold like an animal, which we love.
She's like, guys, I really am fine murdering. Like, I do not need to do
You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. We'll just kill him.
One, you cannot afford me. First. Second, kind of have a little bloodlust right now. It's been about 18 months since I burnt down a house full of people, particularly my father.
Yeah, we're not sure if he died or not. Anyway.
You have the real Halloween episode.
Yeah, Yeah, I do. So as we've learned, Anne, not good about not getting what she wants.
Okay.
So what does she do? Ghosts him. James, her husband.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Anne escapes the island with the help of Calico Jack and Pierre, as I kind of mentioned earlier, and becomes a member of Calico Jack's crew. However, I did mention that women were not typically welcome on pirate ships. They're considered bad luck aboard. And so she disguises herself as a man. Remember how she was dressed as a boy like a lot of her adolescence. And supposedly at this time, only Calico Jack knew that she was a woman.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Pierre was on board at this point. They are friends. He does come back in a second. She becomes Calico Jack's second in command by shooting a guy on the ship whose, quote, attentions were becoming obnoxious to her. He doesn't know that she's a woman. She was just like pissed that this guy was staring at her.
Well, now that it's quiet, I'd like to run an election. Listen, like, murder's not funny until you get to a certain point historically when there's like no victims or victims who remember, or like, you know, like there's a decent chance we're related to some of these people. It's like that stretched out. And at that point, humans are just funny and pirates are ridiculous.
Stop looking at me.
Exactly.
She then kicks Jack out of his own captain quarters and took them for herself. And it was kind of a great way to like hide that she was a woman.
The power of having a gay best friend on your side.
Yeah.
We are the wind beneath your wings.
Well, this is Jack, like the captain of the ship.
I know. So it's Anne with her gay bestie Pierre overthrowing her lover who got her out of a bad marriage anyways.
But that is her lover now.
You are the wind beneath my... Anyone else want to sing? I asked for quiet.
It's me.
I hope it's coming across that it's an old-timey pistol and not a terrible sneeze. If it sounds like a terrible sneeze in your ear, now you know what the bit was. I don't know what to say.
So, Jack, Calico, Rackham, Pierre, the pansy pirate Bousbet, and Anne Bonny have a very flamboyant way of pirating. Obviously. So there is a record of, this is kind of how they did it when they were together. They stole a ship, covered the ship and all of the crew in massive amounts of turtle's blood, used one of Pierre's dressmaking dummies dressed in women's clothes, and put it on the ship. And at night, with the full moon, when they would see another ship, Anne, also covered in blood with a blood-soaked axe, would start hacking away at the dress dummy. And by the time they got close enough to the neighboring ship, the neighboring ship was so terrified of the scene that they saw by the light of the full moon that they didn't, by the time like the pirates boarded the ship, they just handed it over. No fight.
Because they're all covered in turtle's blood.
Yeah, and they're like...
Anne is presenting a show every month.
Yes.
How many mannequins does Pierre have?
Enough? I don't know. I don't know how often they were doing this. Yeah.
I also, like, that's so many turtles to kill for stage makeup.
Yeah, it's also unclear where they got the turtle's blood from.
I mean, I assume...
Pierre owns a turtle farm.
Hundreds of turtles that they harvested.
No idea.
Yikes. No wonder they're endangered.
Yeah. But yeah, so this was a great way because they didn't have to fight. They would just get the other ship for free just for putting on a performance.
It is literally that line from Arrested Development. Those games are so flamboyant, makes me want to set myself on fire. But in this case, it makes me want to just hand over the ship.
Yeah, like, oh, okay. Yeah, you got it. You got it. Don't let Anne anywhere fucking near me. Crazy woman.
Do her crew at this point know Anne is a woman?
Unclear. They do later. They do definitely know later.
Okay.
But I'm not sure when that transition
happened.
I
think a woman on a ship hacking away another woman is slightly different than a man hacking away
And this
a woman.
might have been just the three of them. It's possible that they weren't doing this with Calico Jack's crew. Right. It's possible that they were just doing this like
taking on whole ships, the three of them.
I mean, because that's the way to do it, right? They just scared the other ship. They didn't need an entire crew.
Sure.
Yeah, so I don't know. At this point, at some point, Anne becomes pregnant with Jack's baby. And at this point, the crew definitely does not know that she's a woman.
Okay.
And so they're concerned that the crew would start to get suspicious because she would look pregnant.
Right.
And so Jack, naturally, drops her off in Cuba to have the baby, to like out to live out the rest of her pregnancy and have the baby. Not totally clear what became of the baby. Some sources differ. Some say that she left it in the care of a contact, like one of Jack's friends that was in Cuba, and it lived there. Others say that Anne just abandoned it in Cuba. Others say that the baby died during childbirth. Anyway, there's no real record of...
So that baby doesn't become George Washington?
Yeah, crazy. Can you imagine?
Wait, hold on. Is this actually where we get Alexander Hamilton? I chose the wrong founding father. That should have been my first guess.
Fair. Yeah. Either way, regardless of what happened to the baby, she does leave Cuba, sans baby, to rejoin Jack and continue being a pirate. So maternal instincts, nary a one. Yeah.
Okay. Crazy.
So she was listed as a wanted pirate by Governor Rogers. At some point, and it's unclear if this was like her as Anne Bonny or Andy Bonny, which was her like nickname or her alias. At some point, her and Calico Jack agree to receive a royal pardon in exchange for stopping their acts of piracy. And as we've learned, this lasted like 3 seconds.
Right.
And they basically immediately went back to piracy.
Poor Pierre is probably like, finally, we can go back to my shops and I can get you all jobs and we can just like have dinners together every Sunday. And they're like, shut up, Pierre. We're trying to rob the governor right now.
Give me a dress form. We ruined the last one.
The last dress is full of axe wounds and turtle blood.
They're not going to believe it anymore. So, yeah, they go back to piracy and their crew and them capture a ship. And when you steal a ship or commandeer a ship, it's typical to ask anyone on board if they want to join the invading ship's crew. One of the crew members was an impressive swordsman who had caught the eye of both Calico Jack and Anne Bonny, and this was Mark Reed. And he agrees to join Calico Jack's crew. And he's about to be the 4th member of this little shebang. So Mark and Anne become really close to the point where Calico Jack's like, Anne might be cheating on me. And so his response, also very natural, kill them both. Tried to kill them both.
Yeah, I was
threatened to kill them both.
Killing Anne.
Yeah. So to save
that baby
both
is
of them.
Anne's Horcrux. You cannot kill her.
No, exactly. What a terrifying image. So Anne then has learned a secret about Mark, and the secret will probably protect them, and it's that Mark is actually Mary.
Oh, wait, I love this so much.
Yes.
Guys, I say this all the time, but she does such a good job with her research. So it's Mark, a.k.a. Mary, Andy, a.k.a. Anne, Pierre.
Pierre might not be on the ship.
Well-known homosexual.
Yeah.
And Jack Calico Sparrow, or whatever his last name is. Rackham. Who's going to become Jack Sparrow.
Basically. Fascinating. So Mary Reed, a little backstory on her. She was also an illegitimate child that was raised as a boy. Her mother first had a legitimate son with her sailor husband. The husband quickly deserted the family after the son was born. And at that point, the grandmother, so the mother of her husband, was supporting Mary's mother and her family. Unfortunately, the son died very young. And so Mary, who was the product of her mother's affair, was thus illegitimate and was raised as her brother in order to keep the funds coming.
As Mark?
Was raised, yes, as the brother that had passed in order to keep the funds coming from the grandmother.
Okay.
And it's unsure if the brother was actually named Mark or if they chose the name Mary and then made it Mark or whatever. Sure. But yeah, so this was done to continue essentially getting child support from her husband's family. So almost the exact same
kind of story as
kind of, except instead of the father, it's the mother that's doing this. Yes. The grandmother died when Mary was 13, but she continued to dress as a boy after the gig was up. Sure. You know, she got work as a servant. She then enlisted in the military as a man, full-on Mulan moment. And during this time, she met a soldier who she fell in love with, and then she revealed that she was a woman to him, and then they later got married.
Oh, little fluid moment action going on. That's so fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like the face. Gosh, she's about to stab him, isn't she?
No. So they get married. They open an inn together in the Netherlands, which is really cute. But then he dies, and I'm not sure how he dies, but he dies.
We kill a lot of husbands in our story.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. It was a really cute story, and it ended really quickly. But yeah, after that, Mary needs to support herself, so she goes back to dressing as a man.
So social disruption takes over.
And she works as a sailor, and eventually her ship is captured by Calico Jack, and that's where she gets kind of brought into that crew. And she's still dressing as a man.
Okay.
So At this time, Calico Jack's whole crew knows that Anne is a woman, and apparently Jack cannot keep a goddamn secret because shortly after...
Drunk pirate? Yeah, I could see it. Sober Grant can't keep a secret, so...
So very shortly after Anne reveals Mary's secret to Jack, the entire crew also knows that Mary's a woman.
Fuck. God damn it. Okay.
I mean, it's fine. Whatever. Allegedly, Mary falls in love with a carpenter on Calico Jack's ship, and when he was threatened to a duel with a pirate on board, she became protective of the carpenter and intervened during the duel. Doing the duel in the carpenter's place. She won the duel, killed the other pirate.
Love it.
Yeah, she was like, fuck you, you're not going to touch my...
These women pirates keep killing people on their own crew.
I know.
As they should.
As they should.
Call her mother of death.
It's so real. Okay, so Calico Jack's crew quickly becomes the quote, terror of the Caribbean. There are historical records and accounts of several ships being attacked by Calico Jack, and it was known that Mary and Anne fought openly as women and were thought of as the most violent in the crew.
Okay. Oh, you're about to tell me some of the violent stuff they did, aren't you?
No.
Okay, I was going to say, like, I'm all laughing, and they're like, and then they gouged their eyes out. And
No.
Ladies, come on.
Ladies!
I was on your side.
Let's keep it
I'm
PG.
sure they probably wouldn't love to be called ladies.
No. I think there were some records saying that they fought openly as women, but sometimes even though everyone knew that they were a woman, they would still often dress as men on board because it's like that ingrained.
Sure.
Some historians believe that Mary and Anne might have been more than friends.
Ooh. Did they have a large collection of scarves and were known for their dinner parties?
No, I saw a lot of arguments kind of for this, and I'm not sure how much I believe it, just because both of them have been in heterosexual relationships, but who knows? They might have...
Sure.
I'm not one to like say that they didn't have flings and stuff. They seem pretty
and
open.
not to be like a social scientist about it, but gender norms were so ingrained at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
That to present as a different... I mean, not that they aren't... I think you know what I'm trying to say,
yeah.
right? That like it could very well much have been like, I'm a pirate the same way I'm male presenting. It is to survive.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly, and that's what pirates were known for, code switching when it
mattered most to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly.
There's also some belief that Calico Jack might have not totally been straight, as was the case, I think, with a lot of pirates, is that no one was fully like 100% straight. He was considered flamboyant, was often known as like a flamboyant pirate. He had a fondness for flashy clothes, bright ribbons, and brightly patterned calico breeches, which is where he got the nickname Calico.
Breech?
Breeches are pants. This is calico. Like all of these are just...
the breeches for pants.
Well, yeah.
Oh, it's just like mini fabrics. Okay.
Yeah,
that's,
no, like these are all different calico patterns.
Oh, this pattern is called calico.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I was picturing like calico cat, but then I looked it up and I guess this is what calico looked like.
He had patterned shorts and wore colors.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty good to me.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have Pierre the Pansy, Calico the...
and that's how he knew Pierre, is because he had a dressmaking shop, and that's how he got his fabric.
Oh, you did not tell me that part of the story. That is universal in any century.
I think everyone's bi in the story is my conclusion.
I think everyone's bi.
Yeah. I think
that's it. Like that's
it. End of sentence.
Talking to you, listener.
Believe it or not.
Sorry if you're listening with your partner right now, but what a fun conversation you two can now have.
Exactly.
No, I was going to get that part.
No, it's fine. So Calico Jack is thought to be one of the inspirations for Captain Jack Sparrow. There are a lot of inspirations for Captain Jack Sparrow.
Sure.
John Ward is probably the main inspiration because his nickname was Sparrow. Other than that, other real life inspirations were likely Blackbeard, Black Sam Bellamy, and Henry Every, which we don't have time to get into. We don't have time.
They're also like not clearly gay like the other four were, so
exactly.
It's like doesn't fit the
it's
theme.
Not even fun. Yeah.
I love how on a series about Ghosted, you chose gay people. Gay people having midlife crises.
And I spent a lot of time with the three gays in Europe. I did learn a thing or two.
Rubbed off. Hey, my question actually is, at what point do Pierre and Jack dye their hair bleach blonde? Just to let everyone know they're kind of in a weird place right now. At what point do they start taking a lot of mirror selfies?
Around the time that he thought Mark was sleeping with his girlfriend.
Good. And then suddenly there's a lot more plants kind of everywhere. Yeah. Meanwhile, Mark/Mary and Anne/Andy just have all these carabiners. Yeah. It's just so much easier to get up and down the rafting. It's not offensive for me to say it. I am of the community. I mean, anyways.
While we're on the subject of pirates Pirates of the Caribbean, Elizabeth Swann, that character, was inspired by Anne Bonny and Mary Read.
Well, they did a terrible job of bringing those memories. Listen, who is it? Keira Knightley who does it? Great performance for this fictional character, but... And I mean, who isn't hot for Orlando Bloom, especially during that time period? But really watered down that incredible female character.
I know.
A show that almost assuredly does not pass the Bechdel test either, by the way.
Not at all. Okay. So
the other thing is, like, the story that you're telling me, such a much more interesting story.
Way more interesting, right?
So I would listen. Those character motives are a lot harder to figure out than Pirates of the Caribbean. You kind of always know what's about to happen.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So some sources say that Anne and Mary became more popular with the crew, and as the notoriety of the two fearless female pirates grew, Calico Jack is said to have become despondent and turned to rum.
So gay. I know. Can't handle more people.
He's like, I'm not popular anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, of course I love my gay best friends. Like, I love my girlfriends.
But like, I'm the main character here.
I'm still
Have you seen my pants?
I'm in charge.
Guys! So the crew eventually began to think of Anne and Mary as the real captains, it said. In August of 1720, the crew commandeered, aka stole, a sloop, which is a type of boat, the William, from New Providence Island. In response to the governor, and I want to stop here and kind of say that there are a lot of different, a lot of these details were mentioned in every source that I found, but sometimes the details were in the wrong order. So there was a source that said Mary was originally on the sloop, and that was the ship that got captured, and that's how Mary came aboard on the crew. But there are a lot of other sources that said the capturing of William was way later. Okay. So
that Mary helped capture it, wasn't captured on it.
So there, like I said, if you're gonna go and research the story, some of the details that I said might not agree with some of the sources that you said. I hope I'm capturing the essence of the story, but some of it might not be totally 1000% correct. But also, it's pirate times.
We pretty infamously get 88% of the story right.
A lot of it, some of it's right. Yeah.
And then you let us know in the comments or in emails what we got wrong,
which is great.
We appreciate.
We do love that. Yeah, so they stole the William from New Providence Island. In response, the governor declared the crew, quote, enemies of the crown of Great Britain, and named Anne Bonny and Mary Read specifically their women names.
Oh.
So it's well known at this point.
That's great news for Andy and Mark.
They're like, fuck, we can finally rest.
Exactly.
In October of 1720, so this is the same year, a couple months later, Calico Jack and his crew were discovered by another boat commissioned by the governor, which is captained by a pirate hunter, Barnett. The crew at this point was too drunk to fight, and their main mast was shot away, and so they're basically accepting that they're going to get captured at this point. Just before they ceded to capture the rest of the crew, we're not talking about Anne and Mary right now.
Right.
They went below deck and finished off the rum. Meanwhile,
can't take it with you.
Because they knew that this would be their last drink.
Right.
Anne and Mary were the only crew members to fight, and they held off an entire crew for over 2 hours.
Hell yeah, they did.
But they were eventually overwhelmed.
Okay.
And so the crew is captured. In November of 1720, in St. Iago de la Vega in Jamaica, the crew was all tried, convicted, and sentenced to hang, including the two women. However, code switching, Anne Bonny and Mary Read both claimed to be pregnant at the time.
I gasped there. I was like, oh my God.
I don't think they were pregnant. I think they were avoiding getting executed, which... super fair.
Yeah.
They did, so their execution was postponed due to this. Anne's last words to Jack, right before he was hung, was, quote, had you fought like a man, you need not have hanged like a dog. How badass is that?
Okay, there's actually this insane quote, weirdly kind of connected to this. When Christopher Columbus was sailing from Spain to what
the Ocean Blue?
Yes, in 1492, he passed Granada, which is in the southern part of Spain, and at the time Granada was controlled by a Muslim king.
Right.
And basically Columbus, as he passes it, sees the city fall and Christian forces take over. And there's this quote as the Muslim king and his royal court traveled to Morocco. The former Muslim prince's mother looks at him and goes, "You weep like a woman for what you could not defend as a man."
I love women.
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 Let's emasculate them.
Yeah.
Imagine she's like going up to Jack and like leans
Kissing
into
him
her
on
ear
his like cheek and then whispers it.
"You're a bitch." And then she rubs her belly and like walks
She's
out.
like, our baby will live long and prosper. Okay, so Calico Jack Rackham was hung on November 17th, 1720, and displayed in chains at the spot now known as Rackham's Point in Jamaica, which was cool. I don't know how long he hung in chains there for. We're going to get a little sad for a second. Mary Read died in prison in April of 1721 due to a fever. I think it was yellow fever specifically.
Okay.
Yeah. It is unsure what became of Anne Bonny.
Oh, you mean George Washington? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, honestly. Some say that she died in prison. Some say that she escaped prison. Some say she was released due to the influence of her father if she didn't kill him in the fire, because some sources say that she
still kind of loved her.
Yeah, so it's super unclear what happens to her.
Father-daughter relationships are so complicated.
I know. He's like, I hate you, but come home. Yeah. We'll marry you off to a nice man.
Bring your strange little dressmaker friend too.
Yeah,
He seems fun.
he seems cool. He can hold a
Wait,
conversation.
what happens to Pierre?
We don't know. Like I said, there's like no information on him.
Okay.
I'm not even sure that he was on the boat with them most of the time.
Fascinating.
Yeah. I tried to look him up. There's not even like his Pokemon card, of pirates. So those who say she escaped/survived claim that she spent the rest of her days searching for her treasure that she herself had hidden while she was a pirate.
ADD.
Which is me. Can you imagine just being you're like, fuck, I know I put it here somewhere.
Where is it? Why did I hide it? That's good.
Yeah, God, I was so good. I was so drunk, though. Shit. This island looks familiar.
I have felt so close to this story the entire time, but really it's you who we've been learning all about.
Me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Maia Mark Warner.
There are also records of her potentially returning to Charleston where her father was, settling down, marrying, having kids. But yeah, so we don't know what happens. It is said, to get a little haunted ghosty here, it's said that her ghost still lives in Charleston. There are two places that you can allegedly see her ghost. One is the old Powder magazine. I'm not sure what that is, but
That's where you, because you had to have powder.
Gunpowder.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so that's where you kept it.
Cool. So she was there waiting for her next pirate adventure. The other one is the Pink House, which is a well-known tavern in Charleston. It's said that she can be seen pacing the window. I will mention that it's not clear if it's Anne. People just kind of assume that it's Anne.
Okay.
But it could be.
Assume, want.
Yeah. They want it to be Anne. But they say, so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, those are the two places that you can theoretically
so
see
she either
Annie
died
Bonny.
in prison, escaped to Charleston, or like dissolved into
thin air,
the
searching
next
for her.
thing. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So Anne Bonny and Mary Read likely inspired many female pirates that we see in modern TV, film, and even video games.
Nice.
And that's really it. I have some sources. A lot of the sources, I had a lot of sources. And I feel like I should start reading. I do keep, Grant always laughs at me because I have like a giant block of URLs at the end.
I have like 4 tasteful ones at the top, and she has a whole blue page.
Because sometimes I'll be like, well, is that true? And then I'll like search until I find it. And I'm like, that's a good source. And now we're going to read this entire article.
The reason why she's so much better at research than me is that it's clear she takes at least twice as much time as I do.
It's because I have ADHD and I can't stop until I feel like I know enough. So my sources for this were the Smithsonian, the Royal Museums of Greenwich, the History Channel, the History is Gay podcast, 10 out of 10, Britannica, worldhistory.org, and the History Collection. And then there's some other ones in there. And then I have...
Show me these pictures.
This is Calico Jack's little Pokemon card.
Okay, love it. Very fancy shoes. Don't seem practical for a boat, but that's
Don't seem practical at all for a boat. This is Anne Bonny.
Oh, yeah.
Badass.
Does she just not... Her
boobs are out.
Just fully
There's
out.
a colored
There's
version.
There's a shirt on her, and it's just a little too low.
Yeah.
Also, I actually really dig the hat. That is exactly the kind of gun I assume she was.
And she has red hair. Can you imagine?
Oh my God.
Yeah, right?
See, now her shoes do seem appropriate, and they're cut just above the ankle, which for water purposes also makes sense. And then there's the axe.
She has a gun?
Yeah, and a little telescope.
Sword, yeah.
I love all
And another
that.
gun? Yeah.
And then her boat doesn't have a comically huge pirate symbol on it either.
Exactly. And then this is Mary Read. This is like
she's killed a man, and now she's letting him know that he was killed by a woman.
I don't know why they just show the boobs on all of these pictures, but
men are the same any time period ever.
Yeah. And there's another picture like this of Mary Read, but they look so similar that I was like,
yeah.
but apparently they're
Way to be
whatever.
immortalized.
Yeah,
I love
exactly,
that. Kind
right?
of like a woman you really could not kill.
We don't know where she died. She could still be alive.
I imagine she just like changes into the clothes.
And
of
by
a
the
god.
way,
yes, exactly.
it's me.
I'm an ageless time wizard. Finally, I can be released.
It's me.
I have shared my story. No, I love it. Gosh, I think maybe that's still possible. I don't think so. I think our world's a bit too connected now. But just the ability to kind of like disappear or dissolve. Like, I wouldn't. Lee's the kind of person that if one day he just left, I would understand. We would never hear from him again. And he'd show up like 15 years later, or you'd get like some mystic postcard. And you'd be like, why is he in Indonesia right now? Like, that's
You know what I did for a while in high school? He had this really old car, and he wouldn't lock it because the car was like worth basically nothing. Yeah. And so I would come in and I would sometimes like just leave cryptic things in his car. Like one time me and my friend Ben just left almonds on his driver's seat, like just assorted almonds and a note that said, "You're next." And that's how I imagine he would come back to me if I hadn't talked to him for like 3 years.
You would just get in your car one day and he'd be in the back seat. "Hello, Maia." Tell me, Jesus.
He's like, "I'm so excited to tell you about New Zealand."
Exactly. Still has him like a faux hawk for some reason.
Yes.
He's great. And also, we're not picking on Lee. He's just the only person that I know that doesn't have any social media or anything.
Yeah, he
So it
doesn't.
just makes the most sense.
Yeah, exactly.
You did such a good job with that story.
Thanks.
I loved
The
it.
next one is not put together very well.
That's okay. I could
We're
take
just
that.
gonna do.
I
No,
could take
I
them.
don't want to look at anything else again.
I need to be able to like straighten my back for a little bit.
Oh, I need
and use the
to
restroom.
shower, so we have time in between.
Cool. I'm
but-
glad we're capturing
yeah.
all of this on air too.
Yeah.
You can find us wherever you get your podcast at Well I Laughed. You can find us on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook
Or YouTube.
at Well I Laughed. You can find us on Gmail at welilaughedpod@gmail.com. And you can find us on Patreon at Well I Laughed Podcast. And we love to hear from you guys.
Yes,
Someone
we do.
messaged us the other day and said, "Hey, sorry, so this is me messaging you guys because you said you like messages anyways." And I was like, "Call us out."
I was like, yeah.
Because yes,
absolutely.
no, we do love to.
We do love getting your messages.
100%.
Sometimes it takes us a second to respond, but that's
Yes.
just because we're both busy and we're sorry, but we will get back to you at some point.
And maybe, I don't know if we're going to cut this part or not, but like, thank you guys for helping make this possible. I now have a proper actual stand for this into the 20s. But up until this point, I had just been balancing a tiny little microphone on top of what I think was a to-go like almond
Collapsible
container.
cup.
Yeah, it was a collapsible cup
Like mug,
that we
yeah.
had collapsed. Cool. So this feels just a little less like slapdashed and put together, and we appreciate you guys. Your
Yeah.
support does
It's helping.
tangibly help make the podcast happen. So
Eventually, I won't have to do all the editing.
oh. No.
Grant's like, you and me both know.
And
You're not going to let that go.
please stay tuned, listen to,
Yes.
and love next week's episode, the live show. We are deeply unsure as to how it's going to go. And if it goes badly, we will never do it again. And if it goes well, then we'll revisit
consider
it.
it,
Who
yeah.
knows? It's right.
We'll circle back.
We'll see. But until then, folks,
Bye.
bye.
Okay.